On January 14th, 1766, Parliament reopened, and there began to be a real debate over the potential repeal of the Stamp Act. And it really looked like the repeal effort was going to fail here for a time, largely because William Pitt, the elder, who held a tremendous amount of influence, refused to commit one way or the other. No one really knew where Pitt stood on this issue, and Pitt's stand was basically going to dictate how a very key faction in Parliament was going to vote, because a lot of people looked up to him for their marching orders, so to speak, as to what they were going to do. And so the debate continued to unfold, but when people tried to predict what was going to happen, they basically said, well, Pitt's probably going to fall on the side of enforcing the act, because Pitt believes in this, in the image of Britain being a great world power. That was why he had pushed for all the measures that he had during the French and Indian War, and it attained his influential status because of his success in accomplishing many of those goals in the French and Indian War. So the general feeling was that the repeal effort was going down to defeat. But as they always say, it's not over till it's over. And basically, when Parliament reopened, and as the debate was ongoing, after the people who had spoken against the repeal had given their speeches, Pitt rose to his feet to speak. And what he said stunned everyone in Parliament. He gave a fiery defense of the American colonists. He unleashed a huge torrent of criticism against Grenville and the previous administration. Here's a very pointed quote that he made, quote, "As to the late ministry, every capital measure they have taken has been entirely wrong." Pitt did criticize Rockingham and the current administration as well, but only really for not addressing the situation very strongly. Basically, the Rockingham administration had not come across as very strong in their repeal efforts. But Pitt would go on in this speech to lay forth arguments that taxes upon the colonies, such as the Stamp Act, were unconstitutional under the precedents of British law. And it was he who would put forward the plan that would eventually be adopted by Parliament. He urged that a repeal of the Stamp Act be made, but that it be connected with a declaratory act, which would assert Parliament's authority over the colonies. Now, as I mentioned, this shocked everyone. No one expected William Pitt to come out like this. And indeed, it made him a folk hero among the colonists for a time. And many historians have speculated as to why Pitt would come across this way when Pitt was so much in favor of a strong British Empire on the world stage. And the speculation largely is that Pitt had connections to the merchant and trader classes. And that was one of the reasons for him supporting a strong British Empire on the world stage. He wanted to make the world safe for British trade. He wanted to enhance the economic well-being of the people whom he was closest to, which was, of course, the trader and merchant classes. And so even though he was a strong believer in the British Empire and in British authority, he was against this effort to tax the colonies, and he felt that this was the wrong way to go about these things. And so with that, the tide turned from basically enforcement to in favor of repeal. And this is going to be very key, because even though Pitt's support for the repeal gave it a better chance of succeeding, the King's Friends faction and Grenville and his allies basically weren't going to go down without a fight.